Steve,
Beautiful.
I'm glad you can join us in conversations. We're going to dig a little bit deeper.
Yep.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you entered this time of challenge, what you've experienced, and how you've grown through it and stretched to the absolute limit?
Yeah, well, I'd been through a pretty hefty sort of a divorce quite a few years ago, and partner had walked out, taken everything, and left me with the kids. So it was sort of like a challenge to try and get back on my feet again and get some perspective in life of what I wanted to do. And so I sort of ventured through that and got through that and got over that, and thought, well, it's time to move on, find somebody else and start my life again, which I had. And I met a beautiful girl, and through the internet though, and within a month I had flown over to Dubai to see this girl and meet, and we had that instant connection, even though we'd spoken a month prior on the phone or video link every day. And I just had this feeling that this is the right one. So, you know, did the airfares, did everything, got over there, and mate, when we met, it was like, well, start of a new relationship, but you know, everything just clicked.
What was it about her that you liked?
Well, she had depth. She was a Christian girl.
Yeah.
She was brought up as a Catholic.
Yeah.
But her priorities in life and her goals were exactly the same as what I wanted to do in life. And when we talked, the sincerity and everything was just, everything was right. Everything was perfect. And both of us just clicked together, and we talked so much about future and the past, and it was, I just thought, well, this is the person that is right. And so I was there for, 8-10 days, and we did a lot of talking, and got on like a house on fire. A lot of people sort of like turn around and say, oh, love at first sight's a load of, commotion. But we fell in love with each other, and it was pretty deep.
What did she like about you?
Just she knew that I wanted security. She knew that I wasn't going to like lead her down the garden path or anything, and she didn't have a want for anything. She just wanted a partner that would love her to death, and she'd love him to death.
So as time progressed, this is how long ago was this in relation to coronavirus?
This was a year. I'd have to say roughly around about 6 months before coronavirus.
Okay.
It was
coronavirus
it was
end
August
of 19...
August 12th, 2019.
Okay, then fine. And we sort of became aware of January, February 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
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 And we'd spent time in Dubai together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she was talking about going to see her parents in the Philippines for Christmas, because she had a month off from the start of or end of December to the end of January. And her parents said, no, go and see Stephen in Australia, go and spend some time with Stephen. So she booked her tickets and everything, and she came over and spent the month with me and my son over in up in Queensland, and that's where we were living at the time. And we just got so close together in that month, and we went down, visited my family, parents, my kids and everything. My kids absolutely adored her. They thought she was the bee's knees, and everybody was saying to us, or coming up to me saying, Stephen, you and her just click, you fit, and she's just so into you and you're so into her. And even the letters I got off my mates for our visas and stuff were, when I read them, like brought a tear to my eye, because they could actually see from what my previous relationship was like and knowing my ex-wife to knowing this person, the complete different sort of person that I was, and the sort of person she was.
It's funny how other people can see and
what
affirm
you
yourself.
can't.
This is not just your view, others affirm it, and that gives you some sense of depth and meaning that this is it.
And like we got a lot of things organised, and we're going to do a lot of things, and we're sort of like starting to plan what we're going to do for our future, and like we're going to get all the visas organised and fiancée visas and everything, and start getting that organised. We had a fantastic time up in Queensland. My son, my youngest one, that he was living with us, she spent a lot of time with him. Like I've got there's photos of her when we bought our son a new bed, and she's in there, and both of them are on the floor and reading the plans and everything. And it's something his natural mother would never have done. And they spent a lot of time with Joel, and Joel got to accept her, like knowing that she was going to be around for quite a while, and the two of them just hit it off. And I was happy that they hit it off, because that was important to me. And when she met my other son and my daughter-in-law, they hit it off also, and that was very important to me. And I thought, well, she fits into this family, and she fits really well. And I had my heart and soul into it, and I thought, mate, this is the right one. This is going to be forever, And everything was really cruisy. We did motorbike rides down the coast, and we did so many things together. And even my best mate and his wife, they flew up from Melbourne to Queensland on my birthday to come and have dinner with us. And they stayed a few days, and in another hotel, and we got together again and had another barbecue a couple of days later before they went back to Melbourne. When Babe and I flew back down to Melbourne, they had lunch with us in Toorak and spent more time with her there. And, she spent time with the family. And, everything was just, like, it was like we'd been together for years, but we're just living in two separate countries, And, and even friends turned around and said, man, you guys are just so connected to each other and in love with each other. It's just, even off a distance, she'll turn around and she'll look at you and smile. And you just get that feeling of what that smile means,
So how did the coronavirus situation that affected us all in our relationships, in our travel, in our business, etc., how did that begin to impact the relationship?
Well, the coronavirus came in just before Christmas, and just before Christmas, but it wasn't really noted till like halfway, three-quarters of the way through January. And we just come back from Melbourne, and they said, like, you've got to start wearing masks and all that sort of stuff. So we knew it was getting bigger and bigger. Nobody knew how big it was going to get. And, we've got photos with the three of us with our masks on and all that sort of stuff out in the shops and everything. And, we all thought it was a bit of a joke to start with, and, but we thought we'd mask up, and we did. We took a lot of photos around the place with masks and all that sort of thing. And we actually did talk about it the night before she was due to fly out back to Dubai. We talked about it. I said, babe, you got 3 months on your visa, yeah? And she goes, yeah. And she goes, they automatically gave me 3 months. And I said, you've been here a month. Is there any chance that we could extend that and you stay here another couple more weeks and go back to work? And she thought she wanted to. And we did talk about it. And she said, yeah, I want to. But her commitment with work, because she had a damn good job, and she was a manager where she was, and she had a lot of responsibilities through work, and because she works in Dubai, and when she was doing her visa, she did her visa to Australia through work, and she put down her dates, like this is, and she was stretching them right from the start, right to the very end, where she had to be back, like fly back, and she only had like a couple of it a day, and she had to be back at work. So we pushed it right to the end of the limit. And she said, look, I want to, but the responsibility that she has at work, and she has a commitment, and she wants to honour that commitment. I was totally, not a problem. It was hard the day that she flew out. We're standing there at the thing where they walked through at the airport in Brisbane up there, and Joel gave her a big hug and a kiss and everything, and Joel's sort of like a young 20-year-old guy, and he wasn't really that emotional, but he knew that we didn't realise the COVID was going to kick in so hard, and when I gave her a hug and a kiss and everything, and we stood up there and we watched her walk down the aisle and the turnstiles and everything, and disappear under the thing. And Joel and I sort of like walked out the door, and I was pretty emotional, and I was tearing up, thinking, you know, like, when's the next time I'm going to see her? And I said to Joel on the way home in the car, I said, right, next week I'm going to book a flight to Dubai. And I said, and I'll do the 3-month visa, and I'll go over there and just surprise her. And I said she'd be absolutely stoked with that. 2 days later, they locked us down. And no international flights, no nothing, couldn't get out anywhere. So I thought, I didn't tell Babe that what I was going to do. I thought, no, I'll just let it go because it's not going to happen now. But we still talk every day for 5-6 hours on Link. And, you know, of a morning, 10 o'clock, I'd ring her up, wake her up, get her out of bed. She'd be having breakfast, and I'd be having like morning tea, lunch. On her lunch breaks, she'd buzz me, and I'd ring her up, and she'd be somewhere in Dubai Mall having lunch with work staff, and I'm having like afternoon tea, nearly dinner time, and we talk for another hour. At night time, she'd knock off, I think it was about 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, it was 7 o'clock our time. She'd ring me, and mate, we'd talk to midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was, Babe, got to go to sleep, you know, and she had to work in the morning and everything. And the same as when I came back to WA, you know, it was 4 hours difference, but her shift had changed, so she wouldn't get home till to ring me, and it was 10:30, 11 o'clock my time. I had to get up and go to work, be up at 4 o'clock in the morning, so times were cutting down each time. Internet changed through Dubai Mall, so we could only sort of like text each other. We couldn't video chat anymore because they changed internet connections and everything, and it was harder for the signal to stay in. And it was less time to spend with each other, but we still kept up that 3 connections every day, you know. And even of a night time, we'd talk until I fell asleep. And then when I'd look the next morning and I knew I'd roughly fallen asleep, say 12:30 my time and it's 8:30 her time, she left the line open and watched me sleep and did other things and everything until 11 o'clock. So there was always a 2.5, 3 hour phone session there that we'd spent together and everything. And sometimes she was tired, she'd come home from work, we'd be talking, she'd lay down and she'd go to sleep, and I'd watch her sleep and just leave the line open and, you know, until she woke up and stuff. And we've done that for 16 months that the COVID's locked us out. I had a major accident just before she came to Australia. I came off a 4-story building and had to have surgeries and all sort of stuff. And when she came back for that month, she helped me heal. And she did a lot of stuff to help me get back on my feet and everything. And then when she went back, Joel and I spent another 6 to 8 months up on the Gold Coast. We weren't allowed to go anywhere. We were in lockdown. Nobody was allowed to come into Queensland. You couldn't get a job because everything was shut. Joel was applying at the time to work at the casino, and that got shut down because they started putting off staff after everything shut down. And we got a phone call, and they said, you know, like, Mum's probably only got 3 or 4 weeks, and she lived in Melbourne, so Joel and I packed up and we went down to Melbourne. The next day that we got over the border into Melbourne, they locked Victoria down. And so we were locked in there for 6 months. And we were living with a mate who put us up for the 6 months. Joel's still there now. And Joel got his job back in the coffee shop that he had before we left. And I was stuck in there for 6 months. Couldn't work, couldn't do anything. But it's sort of like still, my mates and everything helped me as a healing process to get better. How did
you feel in that lockdown when you are no longer in control?
It's hard because you can't do anything, you know. This lockdown that we had, you're only allowed 5 kilometres away from the house. You couldn't go to weddings. There was no weddings, you couldn't go to a funeral and say goodbye to a friend or whatever, which happened. And it was frustrating because there's things you wanted to do and you just can't do it. And the government made a rule and said, right, lock down everybody, 5 Ks, and then as the virus cases went down, they extended it to 25 Ks, and then the virus cases went back up, back down to 5 Ks, and all the restaurants, all those sort of places are all shut down. The only thing that was kept open was building industry because infrastructure had to go on. And this went on for 6 months, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't get out anywhere. You know, like Babe and I talk every day, still on the phone, never stop talking. And
did she experience a similar in Bahrain or
over in Dubai?
Dubai, was it similar there, or was it?
They were in pretty heavy lockdown for a little stage as well.
Yeah.
Masks and gloves. You know, there was not they had a curfew. They weren't allowed out after, I think it was 5 o'clock or something.
Okay.
There was only one person out of the family that was allowed to go to get food and shopping. If you lived in a group unit or whatever. And so they had some pretty tight restrictions, and they had some time where they closed down Dubai Mall and they were doing a massive big clean all the way through it. Their hours got cut, their wages got cut by 25, some 50%, but they still had to do the same amount of hours. And because the business people weren't there to shop, there wasn't the money to pay out, so you want to keep your job, that's fine.
So in your relationship, both of you experiencing the limitations of what you can do and where you can go and what life might look like, how did that affect your conversation as to planning your future together?
Well, we thought, this will probably only last 6 to 12 months and it'll all open up again. And the thing that frustrated us is they were talking about the visas, and this is what hurt us a lot. If the visas, if they didn't do what they did with the visas, and there's two sort of scenarios that could have happened. We could have had it open and done a lot earlier, our visa and everything I needed to do, because I wasn't working. I needed to show 3 months of pay slips on the thing to show that I could support her. Money wasn't a problem because I had money tucked away anyway. And I had a lot of money tucked away, but I never opened up and said to Gia what I've got, exactly what I've got. I looked at it and thought, once she's here and we get married, I'll open up to her exactly what we've got and everything. And I thought I'll just keep it low profile for the moment to make sure that everything's going to be perfect and right, And, pardon me. Everything was going really well, and we still talked, and we thought we had a plan that, all right, as soon as it opens up, as soon as they allow the visa to start, I'll have all the paperwork done and I'll put it all in. And that was all good. And the relationship was still, there was nothing wrong with it. We talked every day, and every time we finished a conversation, it's like, I love you, babe, and I miss you so much, babe. And I'll talk to you, like during lunch or during tea or whatever, and I'd say, yeah, babe, no worries. And we'd wish each other a good afternoon or good morning or whatever. And, every time I got off the phone, and I knew exactly where she was going and what she was doing. But it was like, I can't wait to speak to you again, You just want to be there together with each other. And the apartness, it was on dragging. And it took me probably 12 months to understand and realise, man, if this is going to go on, because we thought it was only going to be like a 6-month thing, this lockdown, and then everything would come good again. We didn't know it was going to go as long as what it is. Yeah. Nobody knew. Yeah. And it didn't show the effect through us in time. And I thought, well, shit, she's holding in there. And she's a pretty strong chick. And I knew her morals are in the right place. And I thought, well, I'm never going to give up. I'm here for the duration. If it takes 2 or 3 years, it takes 2 or 3 years. But this is the person that I love, and this is the person I want to be with. And her family to me were fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. All her brothers, her sisters. I'd talk to them through the internet as well. I'd talk to her mother and father through the internet as well. And everybody, when we got together, because she didn't have a partner apparently for like 8 or 9 years prior to me, everybody turned around and said, mate, they haven't seen Babe so happy in years. And she was just like a completely different person.
It's interesting because you're talking about your side of the family acknowledging and affirming it,
Yep.
And it's beautiful to see her side of the family equally recognising that. Yeah.
And they could see that Babe was happy.
Yeah.
And they could see that when we were together over there, they could see how happy she was. Yeah. And she talked about me quite a bit over there all the time. I talked to my boys about her. And then my boys met her, and when she left and gone back, even my other son in Melbourne rang me up and said, Dad, she's perfect. We love her to death, and we wish you all the best. And that was good confidence for me, because that gave me more trust with her, and because I knew that my boys accepted her, and she loved my boys to death, and she showed that.
And then you have the uncertainty then of the coronavirus. September 2020, it was all going to be finished.
Yep.
And then, hang on a minute, no, it's being pushed on and pushed on. So then, how did it progress? Because we recognise that both of you are looking forward with joy and anticipation of a life shared. Tell us a little bit how that moved through the coronavirus and how it impacted your relationship.
Well, after they turned around, they said, oh, look, we're going to open up and do all this sort of stuff. And then all of a sudden it was a snap decision to block it down again. We didn't really talk about it. I think it was more frustration. And we did talk about it a little bit. She goes, she'd ring me up and she'd send me a little snippet thing, and she goes, look, they shut us down for another 12 months. And I'm sort of like, okay, babe, I realise that, but we're going to get all the visas done, put it in. They were saying that the normal visas take about 6 months to get the first lot of approval. And I said, then you'll get your visa pass to come and live here in Australia. And I said, then we've got within 9 months to be married, but you got 15 months before they'll come back to us and have an interview with us to make sure everything's ongoing before you get your Australian residency. So we'll be together and we can start building stuff, but it's only going to be that 6 months. And to start with, the visas were open. I thought, everything's all right, that's fine. And then they decided to lock down fiancé visas. But they kept spouse visas open. So if you're married to an Australian, you could still apply for your visa to come in. And they were still being accepted. But they say they were taking longer, which I don't understand why they were taking longer. It should take the same amount of time, which I think is too long anyway. And, and then they shut down fiancé visas. And it frustrated me, because I'm trying to think, what's the difference between two people that have got engaged and committed to each other? They're still in love. It's still the same thing as somebody else who's got a little piece of paper that is married to somebody. Because you're married to an Australian, you've got a right to come in. Because you're engaged to an Australian, you haven't got a right to come in. And that's so unfair, because they're killing that relationship. That relationship has got nowhere to go. And if this virus is going to be hanging around for years and years and years, which it will, it's not going to go away. It's with us for life. It's never going to be squashed. It's going to keep popping up everywhere. How long are they going to keep those borders closed? How long are they going to keep these people? It's not only Babe and me that it's happening to. It's thousands of people around the world that are struggling with discommunication.
Did you find that impacted your conversation, a level of, frustration?
Our level of conversation, it dropped a little bit, but we still kept it. I still love you, babe, and this is, we're still going to work, and this is still going to happen. It's just going to take a bit longer before we get there, And everything was going so well. Neither of us showed that there was a lack of communication or anything. We still rang each other all the time. We kept all the notes. We've kept all conversations and everything. Even for birthdays right up to the January just gone. She's online with the family and everything. She's made me a chocolate cake and happy birthday, babe. And then 2 weeks later it was her birthday, and I've sent another cake back. And a friend of mine, we actually wrote a birthday song for her. And we sung that over the internet, and she's put that on her YouTube, and she loved it, and and everything was just so sweet. The only thing is, we couldn't be together because the government had turned around and said, your visas, you can't do a visa. And, you know, she'd had all her COVID shots. She'd had her injections. She'd had her COVID test. She was clear to go. And the only thing that was stopping us, and I was working, the only thing that was stopping us was we couldn't put the visa in. Because if we put the visa in, it would have been denied straight away. Because they're not accepting fiancé visas. And to me, you know, our conversation after a while got a little bit more distant. One day we had, I wouldn't say it was an argument, I would say it was a point to get across. And it was frustrating for the both of us because I'm talking to her on the internet and she's like excited and she's like, babe, explain it to me, you know. So I started explaining to her and she'd look across one way and start talking to her sister. And then she'd come back to me and she goes, oh, sorry, babe, can you explain it again? And within a couple of minutes, she did this 4 times. And I thought, and I said, just wait until I finish talking, and then you can talk to your sister as much as you like. And I said, look, talk to your sister, I'll ring you back in an hour or so. And she's like, And I hung up the phone. And I could see the shock in her face because I'd done that, because I'd never ever had a go at her beforehand for like nearly a year and a half about anything. And I just felt, wait until I finish the conversation and then talk to your sister. And I went to ring her up later on and the phone was blocked. She'd blocked me out for a week. And I spoke to a few mates and I was pretty headstrong. And I thought, no, I'm not going to apologise because she was rude enough to do that, you know. So I turned around and said what I said. And then I thought, I better apologise because I haven't done that before, and I thought it wasn't really me, and I'm just frustrated at the time, you know.
But that's the give and take of relationships anyway.
Exactly. And so I wrote a big note thing and apologised to her and told her, you know, like, no matter what happens, I still love you, and I know it's frustrating through COVID because we can't see each other. And then she opened up the line again, and I rang her up and we started talking. And things got back to normal again. And I'm trying to set things over here up. And every time I thought of something, I would speak to her online. I'd say, babe, all right, I want to buy this. I'll send you photos and, you know, do you want to do this and everything? And she was really excited about it. She's going, yeah, babe, let's do it. Because we can live, you know, like out there and do gold prospecting. We can video it and we can put it on YouTube. And she said, and build up our channel and people will be looking at it. And mate, she was so excited about it. Loved the idea. Well, showed me that she loved the idea. So I said, so you're happy for me to go and buy this bus and we'll do it all up as a house and blah, blah. Yeah, babe, go and do it. So I went and spent all this money on the bus. And then I thought to myself, all right, when we're out on the gold lease, I'm going to need a quad, a buggy or something. And I had a buggy that I bought. That was all fine. And then one of my mates had a quad and he goes, oh, $1,000 and you can have it. And this quad's worth about $3-4 grand. And I thought, well, yeah, not a problem. So, and I discussed it with Babe, and I said, I'm going to buy this. And she goes, do you really need it right now? And I said, well, no. And she goes, can't you wait till I get there? I said, well, I can, but if I wait until you get here, this one will already be sold. And we'll probably be looking at $4,000 or $5,000 to buy another one because that's the average price of it for a second-hand one, for a good quality one. And I said to her, but if I get this now, then I've got it. And it can be in the shed and everything. And when you get here, well, you've got your quad because I've got the buggy. And if I'm out somewhere on the lease and you need to come and find me, you can just jump on that and come straight out and see me. And I said, so I'm just trying to think of things that we need. And when you get here, I'll have everything. And she wasn't too happy about that. But then she rang me up one day and I was out on the quad, out on the lease. And flying through the dirt tracks and everything. And she asked me, she said, babe, what are you doing? I said, I'm out gold prospecting, babe. So she goes, oh, have you found anything yet? And I said, no, not yet. You know, and I found a few bits the day before. And she said, oh, cool. And I said, have a look at this. So I put her on the front of the quad and I'm flying around up the dirt tracks and everything. And she's like, is that $1,000 quad? And I said, yeah, babe. And she goes, man, that thing's quick. That thing's really, really good. And I said, well, this is your one when you get here. This is the one you'll be using. And she's going, oh, cool, that's all right. So in hindsight, I thought she was happy with it.
Yeah.
So I didn't push it. I didn't say any more. I thought, okay, she understands now why I've got this, so she can use, and I'll have it all set up for her. So in the whole period, that's the only two iffy buts that I can think of that we had a little bit of a question about.
You're trying to work together, and there's the coronavirus shadow undermining it all, but you're still trying to move ahead. And against the strain of what you can't meet you can't catch up, you can't, the impossibility of it, but you're still drawn to try and what does it look like?
To make it work. Well, not long after that, I went out and bought another four-wheel drive, and she's sort of like, why did you buy that? And like, I already had the money put aside for the visa, that wasn't a problem. And so I went and bought this other four-wheel drive, and I'm doing it up to get it to where I wanted to. And said, why did you buy another four-wheel drive? And I said, well, the white one that I've got, which is all leather and it's got everything, and it was all set up for baby capsules and all that sort of stuff. And she was only just going through getting her license over in Dubai, because I said, babe, you're going to need your license when you come here to Australia. And she's, yeah, right, no worries. So she organised herself, and she was doing all her testing and everything for her license, which was fantastic. So I thought, well, she's thinking positive because she wants to be able to drive when she gets here, and she's going to need to. And I said to her, I'm keeping the white car for you, the new one. And I said, I'm doing this old four-wheel drive up for me. So when you get here, and if I have to go out and do something, and we've got kids, I said, you've got the four-wheel drive, the good one, that you can use with the kids and everything. And she's like, oh, okay. And I said, I'm just trying to get everything done, babe, so when you do get here, we've got the home. I've bought a house in Cal for us to, so you've got a main home to go back to if we need to come back off the lease. I'm trying to get everything set up so when you do get here, everything's done. We don't have to say, right, we've got to get this, we've got to get that, we've got to get this. I was trying to get everything organised. And when I talked to her about things, and I passed everything by her to make sure that she was happy with what I'm doing. The only thing I didn't pass by her was the house. And I thought, well, when she gets here, I'll take her to the house and pull up, and she's going to be like, what are we doing here? And I said, well, this is our home. You know, I bought this and we've done this up. I've done this up, so even instead of just going straight out and living in a bus, we can go out there on weekends and halfway during the week, but you've got a home and a roof over your head that we own, we have, it's ours. And then I was going to let her in, after we got married, I was going to let her in on all the financing side of things and say, well, this is what we have, so you don't have to push so much to work. You don't need to. You know, just do what you want to do, and I know what you want to do is become a mum. Because her body clock was ticking. She's 37. And by the time these visa things are pushed through, and we could finally, if it was only about 2 years, she's 39 years old. And most women's body clock's around 40, 41. And she wanted a family.
So there's pressure already building up. So
there's pressure there building up on the relationship that it's getting further and further away before it's going to happen. And even when we talked back in that January the year before, if she had stayed, well, she would have been locked in. And there's no way she could have gone home. And it's another scenario. We could have got married then we could have put the visa in here, and she'd still be here, you know, and everything would be sweet and okay. But I've done everything I possibly could to try and make sure that she could see that Steve's setting it all up for me. Everything's getting done. And you wouldn't notice, but right up to the very last day, she sent me a snippet that she found on the internet, which wasn't put through by government. It was put through by another organisation that we're locking down for another 2 years and fiancé visas aren't going to be open. Well, I'd read that on the computer snippet a week before she sent it to me. And that sort of like devastated me. And I thought, my God, another 2 years. And we hadn't seen each other for 16 months by this stage. But we still kept our relationship going. Pretty strong, I thought. And then she sends me the snippet. And a thing on the bottom, and I typed back to her. I said, well, babe, what can I do? I can't do anything about it. It's not your fault. It's not my fault. The government's made this decision because the world's covered in disease and virus. And I said, we've only got like 20 people at the moment in this country out of 27 million people that have got the virus, but they're shutting us down for longer. And I said, I can't do anything about that. And
did she understand the quandary that you were in, or you could feel some sort of dissonance at that point?
I couldn't pick it up because every time she spoke to me, it was like, yeah, babe, no worries, fine, and love you and all that sort of stuff. The conversation hadn't changed. I could see probably 2 or 3 months beforehand, I knew she wanted to finish with work. She's been there 10 years and I knew that she'd pretty much had enough and she needed a change. And like, people do need a change. And I accepted that. And she was doing really well in stock marketing on the internet. And she was earning more money in stock marketing than what she was getting paid working for the company. So she'd made a decision to give notice at work and then just do full-time stock marketing in home and earn that way. And pay for the next 2-year visa because it's easier to apply for a visa for a Philippine if they're living in another country like Dubai, because she's a Dubai resident, than what it would be if she was living in the Philippines as a Philippine resident, because she's working there and she's got her own security, she's doing her own thing. So it's a lot easier to get a visa approved and put through. And that's what I said to her, babe, don't go back to the Philippines. Somehow you've got to stay there. And she's, yeah, all right, well, you know, this is what I'll do. So everything was good. But I could see in the last probably 2, 3, 4 months before, you know, July this year, I could hear in her voice, she'd come home and she'd ring me up and I could see that she was upset. She was frustrated with work. There's all these new bosses coming in and they're changing everything and they're putting more demands on them and more stress. And I could see that babe was getting really, really stressed out. And I know when you're stressed like that and you want, you know, you go home and your day's over and you want to walk in the door and you just want that compassion from your partner, like a hug, a kiss, sit down and have a talk, and from your partner just say, babe, everything's going to be okay. I'm here. We can talk about it. We can. But the hard thing was, I'm not there. And she comes home to like emptiness. She hasn't got that support pillar, even though she lives with family, like her sisters and her brothers and all that sort of stuff, and they all live together. Family's still not the same when, you know, you have that loved one that you want to depend on, not financially or anything, but for that inner support, you know. And I'd come home from work sometimes and I'm sort of like, and you walk in the door and you just need a hug. And that hug can change so much in life and feeling and everything. And it can make you relax so much to have somebody there that you know that you can just go home and talk to and they're there for you. Nobody else but you. And I wasn't there to do that for her. But I didn't realise the distance that was pushing us away. And I had the same feelings when I'd come home. And I didn't realise, I didn't pick up that this is hurting her like it's hurting me. And I didn't realise in time, it's actually pushing her away. And my strength was still the same. I was never going to falter and budge on how I felt and what I was doing. But she's the sort of person that needs that person there. And I wasn't there. I was only there on the phone. And I could help and support her through the phone, telling her how I feel and what I want to do, but I'm not there doing it. And that'd be frustrating.
So how did it, from what you've told me so far, and this is spanning, let's say, 18 months, 2 years now, and the pressures on the relationship. What was the moment of truth that you both had to face that you didn't want to face? That you look at the pressure of coronavirus, you look at the pressure of not being able to connect on a physical level and fulfill those dreams. And I remember you saying earlier when we were sort of chatting about this, that there was a moment there when the inevitability of this external pressure finally took its form and
well, after, like sort of understanding what she was going through with work and everything, and I'm trying to support her over the phone, it sort of like come to the crunch where they put out another little document thing, and we were hoping, like by July this year, everything that would have been relieved a little bit. They would allow more visas through, because they were talking about opening the fiancée visas back up again. And I said to her, right, I'm working, I'll get all the pay slips done, I've got all the paperwork we need from my side of it, all the letters and all that sort of stuff, all the pay slips, everything. And then the government, well, the other company put this thing out saying, we've decided to lock down for another 2 years. And I didn't think anything of it for her and me. I just thought, well, we're just going to have to survive another 2 years. Or try and figure something else out. And I was happy to fly over there. And if I lost a few things here or whatever, mate, to keep our relationship ongoing and to give her the support, I'd go to Dubai and find a job there. Simple as that. And take everything like paperwork and all that sort of stuff with me. So when time came, we could still put the visa over in Dubai, because she had to put it in Dubai. And she sent me this little snippet thing. And again, I said, well, babe, what can I do about it? I said, it's not your fault. It's not my fault that this has happened. It's just the way the world is at the moment. And then I got a little text message the next day, we need to talk. And I typed in, well, that sounds pretty serious. I said, why don't you give me a buzz now and talk to me? And I got nothing back. And I tried to ring her that afternoon, and well, we had she sent me the snippet thing, and I said, well, like, nothing I can do about it, we need to talk. Then I tried to ring her, and the phone was blocked for nearly a week, and I couldn't get into her. I tried typing a few things, wouldn't go through, and I thought, man, what the hell is going on? And then all of a sudden, a week later, I just get this one little message, we need to talk. And I typed the message back to her, I said, well, babe, bring me up now, and let's talk about whatever's on your mind. And then I get a text message the next day, is, I've fallen out of love with you, don't ring me, it's over, got to move on. And that gutted me. That just totally wiped me out. And I just didn't know what to do, didn't know where to go. And emotionally for like the last 6 to 8 weeks, it's just totally destroyed every thought, every bit of passion, everything that I ever thought and wanted was just gone in the snap of a finger. And I wanted to try and understand where this came from and why. And I thought the pressures of COVID and not being able to see each other has just totally wiped us out.
Exploring this a little bit deeper, what kept you sane and strong? Because many a good man has taken their life in circumstances where mental health issues are pressure, anxiety, grieving, loss. What kept you on the straight and narrow, so to speak, to work through this?
Love. When we spent our time together, everything was perfect, everything was spot on, everything we talked about, our future, our life ahead, what we're going to do, and it was everything that I wanted in life. And, through my upbringing, my mother and father, if my father was still alive now, they would have been married 68 years. And even though Dad's been gone 7 or 8 years, Mum still looks at Dad's photo and talks to Dad's photo beside her bed every day. Still 100% committed, 100% in love with Dad. And I never heard my mother and father fight, never heard them argue, never heard them say a bad thing about each other through all of my upbringing. And
That's
all
powerful.
my brothers and sisters could say the same thing. But that was old school, the way it used to be in the olden days. And Mum turned around and said to me a couple of weeks ago, she goes, it was nothing like this when we were kids. When we got engaged and committed to a person that we loved, that commitment was for life. And she said, through thick and thin, ups and downs, everything, that's how it was. And you work together, you create things together, you build a life together.
So you had a model of strength behind you.
Yeah.
A mentorship that came from your parents that,
Yep.
would you say, gave you resilience at this time of...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I look back on Mum and Dad and I thought, I've always, and I look back on my two sisters, they've been married to the same husband for years, and their husbands are fantastic, lovely people. And they've had their families, and now they've got grandchildren and so forth and so on. And I just look at that and I think, that's what I want in my life. I want the stability. I want the one person. And I had found the person that I thought was everything. And I 100% committed to that.
What do you have to say then to the Australian government, for example, or the authorities that are under this, what I look at, if I use the word social experiment, because we're dealing with coronavirus that we've never dealt with before. How do you feel their management? What would you say to their management of this, given what you've gone through?
To me, with government, they sit there and they make their rules and they make their decisions and everything. They go home to their wives and children every night. And it's like they don't care about what's happening out there. They can go home, they can see their kids, give their wife a hug and a kiss. And I think being engaged, they think being engaged to a person for so many years isn't the same quality as life as what it is being married. It is different to being married, but to the point where they're saying if you're married to an Australian citizen, you can apply for a visa and come in. If you're engaged to an Australian citizen, no. But there's just as many people out there that are engaged and that are in love and struggling with being apart than what there is somebody being married to an Australian citizen and going through the same thing. What right has the government got to turn around and say, oh, you can apply to come in because you're married to an Australian citizen, but because you're engaged to an Australian citizen, you haven't got a right? How can they determine what the feeling of love is between that person, because they've got a little piece of paper to say, oh, we're married, between that person that has a ring on their finger and is prepared to move to this country, help support this country, and create a family and a lifestyle for themselves in a country that's supposed to be pretty much one of the best countries on earth to come and live in, and one of the most freest countries on earth to come and live in. We don't have guns on every border. We don't have military running around in the streets like 90% of the other countries in the world do, day in, day out. You can't come across this border unless you've got a proper permit and everything. We're free to travel around. We're free, as in humanity, we're free. The government is crushing our right to be able to have compassion for other people and our loved ones. They're pulling people apart, not bringing people together. They're destroying people that have loved each other and trying to be together. And they're destroying all that. And
so the cost is then relationships.
Yes.
It's not just business, it's just the economy.
No.
it's the biggest target of this are relationships.
Yes.
People, families.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the businesses that are losing money for no reason, just because the government says, right, that's it. You know, this virus is going to be around and it's not going to go away. And I can't understand. The flu is bigger than this virus. Breast cancer is bigger than this virus. Bowel cancer there's more people that die from bowel cancer and breast cancer that's died from this flu, from this virus. Yeah. There's more people that have died every day commonly from the normal flu than this virus. Yeah. This virus ain't going to go away. People get the virus and a lot of people can fight it. A lot of people can't. But a lot of people can fight the flu. A lot of people can't. Chemicals can fight lung cancer and bowel cancer, but a lot of people die from it.
That's right.
But we're not blocking our country borders, stopping people coming in. Oh, you've got bowel cancer, you can't come in here. Or in case you've got bowel cancer and that disease, you come in here and give it to somebody else. You can't give it to somebody else. The flu, you can give to somebody else just by a cough.
Yeah.
This virus, you can give to somebody else by a cough. What's the difference?
So, looking forward from here, there's going to be some changes made in the sense of either how the government manages this,
yep,
or we will ever be, from this point onwards, a society with loss of freedoms, loss of capacity to...
The Prime Minister says he's got this 4-step program to open up Australia again. But he doesn't say how long this 4-step program is going to take. It could take another 4 or 5 years, for all we know, because they don't tell us everything. They don't tell us the truth half the time anyway about what they're doing. And, this program could take 4 years to open up Australia. But if this virus is, like they've got 90, 100 people in New South Wales now and Victoria and all that sort of stuff, then they'll probably cull it down again. And then bang, it's going to pop up again. If it keeps raising its head, going up and down, which it's not going to stop. It's going to get worse before it gets any better. And
so the management then of coronavirus has created a climate of distrust.
Distrust, yeah.
Distrust at the management of understanding coronavirus. Distrust at the people cost that it's cost yourself and businesses. Your son's not working because of coronavirus lockdown. And that distrust creates a dangerous precedent for a society as a whole.
Yes.
And we've explored that today through a relationship that's been impacted by the regulatory controls to control not just the virus, but society as a whole.
As a whole.
Yeah.
And I'm not the only one that's going through it. There's thousands of other people that have a story like mine, which they're going through, and the emotional side of things, it just destroys you. And it hurts and it kills, and other people are trying to help you out and everything, but, to try and understand why this is happening.
Yeah.
And the only way we can look at it, we were so in love and we were doing so much together and we were going to be together, and if this virus hadn't come, we would be together now. Yeah. She'd probably be just about having a child and everything would be happy. But because of this one thing and the government's rulings, it stopped all that. It's destroyed a relationship. It has destroyed thousands of relationships.
If you had to put your arm around somebody's shoulder, having gone through it, and you can see them going through it, what would be how would you speak into their lives to help them and strengthen them? Because having gone through it, experienced the pain, the sense of loss, the bewilderment of government regulation, and the sense of futility, how would you speak into somebody else's life, having gone through it and so much stronger and so much wiser as a result?
You've just got to have faith. I'm a Christian, and when this happened to me, I used to pray to God so many times to make sure that she was safe, this will work, everything will be okay, this virus will go away, and it'll still give us the strength to keep going through all this. And I believed in my heart that she was strong enough to cope with it. And I've got the strength through how I was brought up to keep going and not give up on something that was everything to me, meant everything to me. And even with other people coming in, you know, a lot of people aren't Christians, they don't believe in God, they don't, you know. But I lost a lot of my trust and faith in God when this all happened, and I got those texts and everything, and I thought to myself, and I just sort of like looked up at the sky and I thought, why haven't you helped me? Why have you done this to me? You know, why are you doing this? And, you know, with other people are in so much hurt and so much pain in what they're going through. I'm not the only one. But you've just got to keep your inner strength and keep believing that it's going to work. What kept me going is every morning when I spoke to her, and just the tilt of her head and the look in her eyes, and I love you, babe. And I'd say the same thing back. That gave me strength day in, day out, because I knew how she felt. I knew that this is going to be right. And like I said, government made their decision. Everything totally changed. And everything that we'd worked for 2 years, and I had busted my ass for 2 years to do, even to have the strength through the coronavirus, the government wiped out in seconds, with one person saying, no, we're closing down. And that's hurting a lot of people. But they've got to realise you've got to have your inner strength to get through it. You've got to keep believing there's a positive at the end, not a negative. If there's other people out there, and I know there's thousands of people that are struggling through what I was going through, and if you are still together and it's sort of like on the rocks or whatever, don't give up. Gain the strength to keep going on, because eventually you will be together somewhere along the line. It might be another year, it could be another 2 years. But why destroy something that's been going on for so long?
It's interesting you talk about two ingredients, faith and love. And the other ingredient that fits into that is hope.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've got the foundation of love, and you have a belief that you can work towards it, and then you have hope that you don't see it yet, but you're working towards it.
You're working towards it.
And those ingredients have come out in your story and in your testimony, and very powerful, because what you and Babe have lost may be gain for someone else who's ready to take action in a negative sense, rather than recognising love is greater than this. Hope is not uncertain, but there's a reality that we can do better, and love just binds and ties and heals And I'm looking forward, Stephen, and carrying on this conversation again in the future. Thank you very much, brother.
Not a problem, thank you.
Be with you and carry you in my thoughts and prayers as well.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.